argument in court where the defense will say the bag that you received was marked this inter alia, and you, knowing the correct case number, you write it according to how you know the correct case number. They take issues with you as well, because they say you have now tampered with the chain of custody. That is not how you received it marked. You received it marked with this case number, but you wrote the correct case number. So it will be interesting to see in the original seal bag, how was it written? That is my comment with regard to that issue, commissioners.
And that original bag, as I understand it, should be still stapled to the ballistics folder for the Bramley case.
That is correct. We do that, commissioners.
So we can, Captain Kachwa, I think, has that file, and we can investigate that with him tomorrow.
That is correct, commissioners.
May I just ask Mr. Chesterton, does it mean, Brigadier, that from what you've explained, that you know the correct case number, but the evidence bag has got a different case number? Does it mean that your processes do not permit for inquiry with the investigating officer? So let's assume what you've said is what happened in this case, because clearly we know from the report that Makotwe knew the case number, because right at the top of page 22, there's Bramley Cas 149. So he must have known the correct case number. If he received the evidence bag with 140, saying the case number is 140, do your processes not require that he makes inquiry or permit that he makes inquiry with the evidence leader, with the investigating officer?
It does, Commissioner. If, for example, here, on the covering letter, the case number was also wrong, then in that instance, it means we are dealing with a different case number. But what I say, you write, you document it as it is. Sometimes you'll find out other investigating officer, for example, he may start with the case. He may not write the name of the station. Maybe write case number 140 of 2024, omitting the station name. You may not add the station name, even if you know that it's Bramley, because that's how it's written on the covering letter. But if it's a mistake that affects the case, which in any way it is a wrong case, in that instance, we contact there's a form, there's a procedure, there's a statement that you complete, depending on whether you noted that mistake once we have opened the parcel or before. Then we return it back, or we make means to contact the investigator to come and correct and explain. But in this instance, it's a mistake, but it is, according to this paragraph, you document it as you see it. Hence, I'm saying this can only be ventilated when we see the seal bag.
Can we then turn to the corrected affidavit, which starts at page 28. And if we look at page 28, or if we look at page 30, we see that in the corrected affidavit, the reference to, in paragraph 4, the reference to the Bramley case number is still 140 as opposed to 149.
That's correct.
When we go to paragraph 10, we see that the error in relation to the cross-reference has been corrected. So the 10.2 now refers to the cartridge case as mentioned in 4.9, which is what it should have referred to all along. And if we go to 13, we see that the errors on the dates still remain. and that's true. The wrong references to March are in 13.2, 13.3, 13.4, 13.5, and 13.6. But if we go to the signature page on page 35, we see that the date of the signature still says 24 May 2024. And we know that this wasn't deposed to in May 2024. It was deposed to, we think, in October sometime that year, certainly after May, because it was only after the prosecutor had written in September saying, please correct the problem in relation to the 15 cartridges. And that was also one of the complaints that was made by the officers who came to see you. What was your response to that complaint?
Commissioners, my observation when I went through this statement, there's only two scenarios that I think happened here. Analysts are doing their own typing. In the past, we used to have typists, but they resigned, and we no longer we don't have typists. So analysts started to do their own typing. So as they do their own typing, I think what happened is that if the analysts start the case on the 26th of October and finish the case on the 27th of October, they happen to have that habit that they also type a date for the commission of oath up front. So if you check on 8.8, the date which is there was typed when the report was compiled on the 24th of May. Now, what happened now here, after a year or two, you are told that page 3 of 8 has got a typo error. Please correct the mistake. The analyst will go and look for the report on their typing folder and correct the mistake accordingly. But what happened is that they may not go to the last page to change that date. And the two scenarios is that either he may only press print current page and print only the page where he has made the correction and go to the person who initially commissioned the statement and ask them to initial that page and insert that page which correction in the report. Or he may print the entire page, the entire report, without changing the last date on the last page and look for the member who commissioned on their behalf or any other member and give them, because the date is there, the person who commissioned will sign. I'm not saying it is right, but that is what I think could have happened in this instance. That is my submission, commissioners.
While we deal with the commissioning, there's a further concern that I have about the commissioning, apart from the fact that the date doesn't reflect when the affidavit, the corrected affidavit, was ostensibly deposed to. The commissioner on both cases, on both affidavits, page 27 for the first one and page 35 for the second, is a Warrant Officer Marsha. And Warrant Officer Marsha was the partner of Warrant Officer Makgotlwe when he attended the crime scene. Is that not right?
That is correct, Commissioners.
I'm not sure what the legal consequences of this are, but I would suggest that it would be good practice for your section to ensure that the officer who commissions an oath in relation to a ballistics report is not an officer who's had anything to do with that case previously.
Commissioners, now that the evidence leader is mentioning it, I fully agree that it's something that the section has to look at in order to safeguard our processes. Because certainly one may argue that there might be some conflict of interest. The other member already has side to the case. So it's something that we'll have to look into it and try to put some measures to prevent it, Commissioners. I accept that, Commissioners.
Brigadier, besides the correction that we see, which Advocate Shaskalson took you through just now, in the non-conformance process, what discrepancies did Captain Makgotlwe himself highlight, and what explanation did he personally give?
Commissioner, the non-conformance is attached. It's handwritten. Firstly, there's a.
Is it the document at page 15?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Maybe you read better than I do. Can you please respond?
Section 1 is the description of the non-conformance. Case examination, Captain Makgotlwe FSL, completed, Lieutenant Colonel Monakali affidavit. Captain Makgotlwe examined case file with LAP number 193051 of 2024 and LAP 193045 of 2024. Paragraph 3.4, the examiner states that 2 fired bullets core were received. In paragraph 10.2, the same bullets mentioned in paragraph 3.4 as the cartridge cases. Paragraph 4.13, the examiner states that 1 cartridge case was received. In paragraph 6, the same cartridge case examiner mentioned it as a cartridge. Then they referred to the form that he completed. On ICDMS, the affidavit was scanned and confirmed date 2024-06-2026, and the corrections were made after the scanning, and supplementary affidavit was not scanned.
Right, we'll pause on that at the Madlanga Commission just for the moment, but rest assured we'll be back. This is the National Pulse. My name is Ashraf Garda. By the way, feel free to send us WhatsApp comments as soon as we can. We will play them. We've banked them and we'll play them live on air ASAP.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Tani Esther, or should I say the Tupperware Tani? How's business going? Business is booming. I've been operating out of the boot of my car for 10 years, but shame, it couldn't keep up with my growing empire.
Okay, so you sold it to We Buy Cars.
Yes, quick. Sold my old one, bought a bigger one. I even sold some of my Tupperware to the friendly guy who picked up my car.
Stick to what you know best, eh, Tony?
Excuse me?
Never mind. We Buy Cars. Geared for your business, geared for you.
The Expresso Morning Show has been nominated in 5 categories in the 3rd Annual National Film and Television Awards South Africa.
It all happens on Saturday, the 22nd of November, 2025, at the South African State Theatre in Pretoria. And public voting is open from the 13th of October to the 20th of November at midday.
So visit nationalfilmacademy.com, register, and vote for Expresso Morning Show in all 5 categories.
Then, of course, catch us weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. right here on S3.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, no delay. Let's get straight back to the Madlanga Commission.
That supplementary statement, which was signed or sworn to on 26 February, corrects paragraph 3, corrected paragraph 4.13, says paragraph 4.13 should read 1 7.62 times 39 millimeter caliber cartridge, not cartridge case. So the supplementary statement corrected that error pursuant to the non-conformance report. And if one sees the reference to paragraph 4.13 in the non-conformance report, which explains or which had picked up this error. Brigadier, one issue which has confused me is that the non-conformance report refers both to the error in in 10.2 and to the error in 4.13 that we've just looked at. The warrant officer deposed to a supplementary statement to correct the error in respect of 4.13, but in relation to 10.2, he seems to have essentially just created a replacement page or deposed to a whole new affidavit. Why would you do, is there any explanation for that? I mean, surely the sensible procedure is just, if you're going to do a supplementary statement, address both issues rather than do the page replacement and present a document that purports to be an affidavit signed in May 2024 when you're doing this all in October 2024, February 2025. Why the two different procedures?
Commissioner, I take note of the observations, and myself as well, I do not understand because they were all identified under one non-conformance. They should have been in one report. So I don't know why you made two supplementary on the same mistake which were identified already, Commissioner.
Thank you, Brigadier. Before we leave these reports, there's one final issue that I want to raise with you, which is that when we consulted with Captain Mkachwa on Friday, he brought the case file with him. And what we found in the case file was an affidavit stapled to the front folder of the case file, which was a third different version of this affidavit of Warrant Officer Makgotle. And what that affidavit did is it corrected the only change that we could pick up in that affidavit was a correction of paragraph 4, so that the affidavit in the case file today, in paragraph 4, no longer refers to Bramley case 140 of 4 of 24, but now refers to Bramley case 149 of 4 of 2024. Do you know anything about this third affidavit?
Commissioner, no, I don't have sight of that. I'll have to investigate and find out.
And before I raised it with you, had anyone even reported it to you?
No, Commissioner.
Sorry, Mr. Chaskalson, it's not part of our annexes.
It's not part of our annexes because I intended to deal with it with Captain Mkachwa, because he's the one who can actually confirm that that is in the case file today. Is there any protocol that could explain, well, that deals with a case like this? If you want to correct an affidavit, who should you tell, and where should it be reflected? Is there not some sort of log sheet or something that should reflect where it's done?
Commissioner, corrections of affidavit or recall or supplementary, that is all determined by either when you have a complaint from the client, when they check your report, when they discover that there's a mistake. The next course of action will then determine if you have to recall the previous statement and issue a supplementary report. Because in most cases, those are mistakes that are noted after the final report has been reviewed and finalized, scanned through the ICDMS, made available to the prosecutor. And in some instances, that's when such mistakes do happen. So in that instance, that's why we have a non-conformance procedure, which we register and investigate to find out what could have been the problem. Is the problem with the system, or is the problem with the member? Is he or she negligent? Or only investigation can then point out the next course of action, commissioners.
And Brigadier, if there is, well, let me put the question this way. Assume that there is now a third version of this affidavit in the case file. What should there be in the case file to explain the circumstances in which this affidavit was changed again? Should it be in a log sheet? Should it be in surely something needs to be in the case file to explain.
Okay, we'll get back to that as soon as we can. Right now, let's get to the very latest news headlines with Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, a G20 meeting looking at food loss and waste prevention in sub-Saharan Africa has revealed that approximately 10.3 million tons of edible food in South Africa does not reach the human stomach. Police ballistic expert Meshek Mkabela has questioned delays in crucial evidence reaching his department, and the iconic Antanikwa Chojo is one step closer to making its long-awaited return to the garden route after nearly 2 decades. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
This is SAFM Sports with Domin Khapele.
Right, Tumi, let's talk sport first for the Monday afternoon after the weekend. You've got news about Themba Bavuma.
I do. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, Test captain Themba Bavuma has been included in the SA Men's 15-player squad announced today for the 2-match Test series against India. Bavuma returns to the side after missing the recent Pakistan Test series as he completes his recovery from a left calf strain. Now, the squad includes 3 frontline spinners, Simon Harmer, Keshaf Maharaj, and Senirat Mutusami, while Kagiso Rabada and all-rounders Corbin Bosch, Marco Janssen, and Vian Mulder provide pace options. The first test in Kolkata is on the 14th of November before the Akka Stadium will host its maiden test match from the 22nd of November. In football, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso believes that reaching the group stage of the CAF Champions League not only reflects the strength of the PSL but also enhances the club's continental ranking. The Brazilians sealed a commanding 7-1 aggregate victory over Remo Stars following up last week's 5-1 away win with a composed 2-0 win at Loftus Stadium.
The attitude was very professional throughout all the week. We knew we wanted to score goals, we wanted to win again, we wanted to score points for the CAF ranking. We want to highlight the football of Mamelodi Sundowns and the quality of the players. We wanted to highlight the work we are doing in terms of growing the team. We wanted to highlight the football in South Africa, of course.
Meanwhile, Orlando Pirates coach Wadu Abdeslam says that his players showed what they are capable of in the future. This is despite crashing out of the Champions League. Pirates lost 5-4 on penalties after managing to draw 3-3 on aggregate with a 3-win at Orlando 3-0 win at Orlando Stadium against DRC's Lupopo.
Yes, I think, of course, when you are supporting Orlando Pirates and you love the club, and of course, you have a lot of expectation from the fans. They can be, of course, disappointed. But in the same time, I think if they have seen how the boys are fighting since the first minute and how they deal with the game, the football they have proposed today, I think they can have some trust, some confidence for the future with that team. Of course, I can understand the disappointment because everybody wanted to go through. We did our best, and the best team didn't go through the stage.
Well, Juventus have sacked coach Igor Tudor after the Serie A club's 1-0 defeat by Lazio meant that they accumulated just 5 points in their last 5 matches. Juventus is 8th in Serie A, 6 points behind leaders Napoli. They are 25th out of 36 teams in the Champions League standings after drawing 1 and losing 2 of their first 3 games. Meanwhile, in swimming, South African swimmer Rebecca Meder wrapped up her World Aquatic Swimming World Cup journey on a high note, claiming a 4th bronze medal at the final leg of the series in Toronto, Canada this past weekend. The 23-year-old finished in the women's 100-meter breaststroke in 1 minute and 4.48 seconds, just 1/100th of a second ahead of Japan's Satomi Suzuki. Now, the race was won overall by the series champion Kate Douglas of the USA in 1 minute 2.93 seconds. In terms of rugby, former Springbok coach Jake White is making a return to schoolboy rugby, taking up an advisory role at the Selborne College. White, who parted ways with the Bulls in July, will be in charge of improving the rugby structures and program of the school. Then finally, in netball, newly appointed Netball South Africa president Mamie Diale says that she's quite excited to be the one to lead the federation for the next 4 years. Diale was the first choice over Nompumelelo Vavu of Buffalo City and Aneli Lucas representing Cape Winelands, having received 69 votes out of a total of 116 from the NSA council members. And Diale says that she aims to restore the sport's dignity and help propel it forward alongside the new executive.
I think my work speaks for itself, nothing else. I'm one of the administrators that made netball to be where it is in terms of programs, in terms of structures, in terms of policies, transformation and everything. I was part of the building of netball. And my aim is to take netball forward and move together with the people, those who voted for me and those that did not vote for me. I'm staying together, we move forward for netball. Let us call, to rebuild the structure of netball, the culture of netball.
Before I leave, Ashraf, just this past weekend, actually, the sports minister tweeted, "We all love and support our respective teams, but when any South African team face any team from outside South Africa, then your patriotic duty should kick in. Your hate can't reach such stupid levels where you are wishing for any South African team to be beaten by a foreign team. I thought it kicked in automatically.
What kicked in automatically?
Like if it whether say now I'm a Kaizer Chiefs fan
Mm.
and Pirates is playing against a foreign team in a continental competition, is it not supposed to be automatic that I'm South African regardless if I'm a Pirates fan or not? I guess some people feel like rivalry is rivalry.
I think you're in dreamland. I think when
But
the
it's a
national
South
team
African
plays,
team.
when but you see the tribalism around the power of sport and club sport is so great that very few people can be happy that their great rivals win, because in fact they are great rivals. So Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates. I
Yeah.
can think about Ahli and Zamalek in the past, and now Pyramids FC, Manchester United, Man City, Liverpool, Barcelona. Can you just imagine Barca fans saying, if we can't win the Champions League, we'd be thrilled if Real Madrid can win it. We'd be very happy. It's a Spanish club.
It's a country thing.
But they don't see it that way. I think that the tribal aspect of supporting a club is greater than doing it for your country. In fact, they don't want them to win.
I mean, remember with Sundowns in the Club World Cup,
Yeah.
there were people that were saying, no, we actually don't care whether they do well or not. But I thought we'd come together as South Africans to say it's a South African team in the world.
I think, you know what, when they play as a country, like when Bafana played now, and then when players come from different clubs, sometimes there's a bit of rivalry, but that part you can overlook, and then people will support the country or the Springboks or whatever. But as far as the clubs are concerned, just live with the reality that you must be very, on dreamland if you really think a Pirate supporter wakes up this morning and say, we lost, but you know what? Chiefs are still in the Confederations Cup. I pray they win for my country. They want them to lose. I wonder what others think. I want to hear what the people say after the Madlanga Commission conversations. Yeah.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in KZN, there's protesting/unrest reported in the Durban CBD area, so you're asked to expect delays and diversions. And on the N2 northbound, a crash reported after the M1 Higginson Highway exit. In Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Boyson, slow moving towards Xavier Street. The M2 westbound in Crown has delays towards Main Reef Road, and Eskom Patleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. Pakenkrag Street outbound is slow moving, that's towards the elevated freeway, and Victoria Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
You could spend 10 minutes on social media or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. Like 55-year-old Andre, who now pays a mind-blowing 776 Rand a month for his 2024 Toyota Urban Cruiser. With Outsurance, you get to enjoy benefits like panic assistance that sends the nearest medical or armed response unit to you wherever you may be, 24/7 with just a tap on the app. SMS out to 30754. After switching, 55-year-old Stefan now pays only 611 Rand a month for his 2024 Suzuki Jimny. Outsurance is so confident that they can beat what you're currently paying. So why not put them to the test? If Outsurance can't beat what you're paying, ask them for 500 Rand. Make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you have nothing to lose. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. Limits apply.
I don't love going to school. I don't love sitting in a classroom with 50 other children. But I do love learning. Yakuthanda ukufunda isiXhosa as a language. I do love getting good grades. I do love UCT Online High School because I do love my future. Apply online before 28 November.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, so certainly for the first part of the 3-hour show, we will give extensive coverage to the Madlanga Commission. Let's get right back there, and you're going to hear the voice of Brigadier Mishak Mkabela.
To simplify associations. And they design this infograph, which indicates which case is linked to this case to make it simpler instead of going through the whole paragraph. So as the hits are identified on the match point, the operator will compile. And every time when they discover a new possible hit, you will add on this infograph. The infograph will grow. And at a later stage, they will start to retrieve all those case files that are mentioned here and assign them to an analyst to compare them physically on the comparison microscope to confirm if they were indeed fired in the same firearm as they are represented on the chart there. And in these instances, this is what the operator did for all these cases which were linked to the Vereeniging and the Bramley case. All those cases that are depicted there, they have an association of some sort based on their caliber. For example, the AK-47 is linked to this number of cases that are listed here. The 9mm Taurus is linked to these cases that are mentioned here.
Sorry, Brigadier, remember that you and we can know which cases are linked to the 9mm, which ones are linked to the AK-47. Maybe if you can explain which case is linked, which are the cases, if you can just refer, I think what people seeing the infographics can see is gun 1, gun 2, gun 3. So gun 1 is the 9mm Taurus seized in Bramley. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioners.
Gun 2 is the AK-47 seized in Bramley.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Gun 3 is the CZ pistol seized in Bramley.
That is correct, Commissioner.
And gun 5 is, I think it's the Sauer 9mm seized at Bramley.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Gun 4 relates to a different case that has a lot of overlaps, but let's ignore gun 4 for present purposes. So using the references to gun 1, gun 2, gun 3, and gun 5, can you just describe, can you just repeat your description again?
Commissioners, as I was stating here, the gun 1, which was recovered from the Bramley cases, is linked to the only case which I can mention here is the Santen case 437 of 10/2020 murder.
In fact, that's an error in the infographic because it's attempted murder. Yeah. Brigadier, I'm sorry about that. That is the attempted murder of Ms. Topojani.
Yes.
So one of the Bramley guns can be positively linked to that attempted murder. It can also be linked, apart from that attempted murder, to another 18 different crime scenes apart from Bramley or Vereeniging themselves.
That is correct, Commissioners.
So this single gun has been used, according to what your ABIS system has shown, in 19 different murders or attempted murders, and plus the murder in Vereeniging. 20 different murders or attempted murders that this one gun is linked to.
That is correct, Commissioners.
The AK-47, can you describe what your ABIS system has established in relation to the AK-47?
The AK-47, which was recovered from the Bramley case, is linked to other 8 cases, including the Littleton case 167 of 8/2022, attempted murder. And again, the Vereeniging case, that is the AK-47.
So that is, this case seized in Bramley was used in the murder in Vereeniging and another 8 different murder or attempted murder crime scenes. And 2 of those we can actually mention. The Orlando case 220, which was the murder, 220-03 of 2022, which was the murder of DJ Vintos. And the Santon case, 398 of 11 of 2022, which was the murder or attempt of DJ Somebody and the attempted murder of people with him. Gun 5, the Sour, which links have you been able to establish? How many links have you been able to establish to Gun 5? I'll point out this is not in your statement, so it's additional to your statement because these were not addressed in your statement.
No, Commissioner.
But if we look at the infographic, what does it show in relation to Gun 5?
According to the linkages for Gun 5, there were 3 additional firearms or cases that are linked to Gun 5, commissioners. And the Gun 5 is also linked to the Bramley case as well.
And these 3 cases that Gun 5 has been linked to are all murder cases.
That is correct, Commissioner.
And
one has 2 counts of murder.
And Gun 3, the CZ pistol, has been linked to 1 other case apart from Bramley and Vereeniging.
That is correct, Commissioner. Yes.
So your conclusion in paragraph 51 of the statement was that the 3 weapons seized in Bramley have been linked to 24 other different serious crimes through matches generated by ABIS. That was before you'd run the matches in respect of Gun 5. So 24 now becomes 27.
That is correct, Commissioner.
And if you go back to MNM1, you see on Annexure MNN1, 29 hits. And would that be the 27 we've just discussed, plus Bramley, plus Vereeniging?
That is correct, yes, Commissioner.
That is essentially all I wanted to canvass with you, but I do really want to emphasize the point that I made earlier, which is this ABIS system is extraordinarily powerful. And I don't think you're going to argue with this, but my own submission is that SAPS should be resourcing the section that drives this ABIS section so that it can get the maximum capacity out of that system that it can. You have 3 weapons seized in Bramley over a year ago that have now been linked to 29 other investigations across the country. That's information the SAPS should have had within a week of the seizure in Bramley. They've had to wait for almost, for more than a year to get that information. It's been a lot of wasted investigation time that could have been accelerated if they got that information instantly. You're nodding your head, Brigadier. Is that an agreement?
I totally agree, Commissioners. I totally agree.
Chair, from my side, I have no further questions for the Brigadier.
Brigadier, the last paragraph of your statement, the last sentence there. Accordingly, if the investigators were informed by anyone prior to Prosecutor Kusia's letter of 5 August 2024 that the weapons used in the Vereeniging murder case are linked to various other murders in different cases, the person who so informed them would have had to have obtained this information from a source other than the ABIS system. According to the investigating officers, that is Captain Mokhahle, through your investigations, have you been able to establish what that source is that you mentioned in the last sentence of your statement?
Commissioner, what I can say is that you have a situation where the investigation, through their own investigation, they come across information that case X and case Y could be linked together. And when that happened, they write a letter to the lab and they request us to compare this case and see if there are any linkages. And in that instance, we will simply retrieve those cases from archives and compare them physically. There's no intervention from IBIS. So if I think on this one, there was an instant where probably the IO got some information that the Vereeniging case could be linked to the Santen case. I'm just singling out that request in particular. The Santen case 398-11-2022. And they wrote a specific request for those two cases to be compared. And indeed, when they were compared, a positive was made. So that could be the only way in which a person will know if there's an information that perhaps the same person who is arrested for this case, it could be the same person who committed this murder. Please, can you check for us? Then we say this is a request. We do that, but they are not related to IBIS. So if anyone says that, but we were able to compare this case and that case, I would say if there was an information, yes, it does happen, Commissioner. Maybe that's why this paragraph, maybe it was through that. I'm not too sure if it answers the question.
As I understand the investigating officer's grievance, their grievance is that it was Mokhahle who told them that the weapons seized in Bramley were linked to various other crimes. And they were disappointed when they then received the ballistics report from him, and it did not contain those linkages. And that's when they became suspicious of him.
Given the timelines, Commissioner, he could not have told them. Even if he did, he could not have known. Because we now know that the specimens were acquired when in September and viewed around 2025 and only linked with other cases now. So when the discussion happens between him and the detectives, there was no, and he was not at IBIS at that time. So he could not have known that these particular firearms are linked to so many other cases. I don't know how that discussion came about. Maybe he can answer himself as to the truthfulness of that statement, Commissioners.
Other than ABIS, is there another system that is used by the police that could have made that linkage?
Definitely no, Commissioners. This is the only system that we are utilizing.
Chair, I'm just indebted to Commissioner Khumalo because I haven't addressed that this section of the. I'd lost track of where I got to, but I think the timeline is very important here. We've dealt with the audit trail, and that the key point in that audit trail, Brigadier, would be 6 September 2024, which is the first time that the Bramley Vereniging weapons were entered onto ABIS.
That is correct, Commissioners.
Now, the allegation of the detectives is that when they met with Captain Mokgotlwe in May 2024, possibly June, he told them these weapons are linked to other crime scenes. And we know that the detectives certainly believed that, because if we go to MNM 5 August 2024, paragraph, this is the letter that the prosecutor writes to various senior police officers seeking protection for the detectives. In paragraph 5, she writes, the investigations also revealed that the firearms used during the commission of the assassination and found in their possession are linked to multiple assassination and serious violent crime scenes. So by 5 August, the prosecutor had been informed that the vehicles had been linked to other crime scenes. Now, that information couldn't have been obtained from ABIS because ABIS would only have been able to give you that information on 6 September. The detective only have been able to give you that information on 6 September. The detectives say that Captain Mokgotlwe told them that in May, June. He couldn't have got it from ABIS, but there is certainly a possibility that if organized crime networks had infiltrated the SAPS, he may have been tipped off that these weapons are weapons which are involved in many scenes. What's your response to that?
Commissioners, the timelines do not support that assertion.
Well, the timelines only tell you what ABIS would have been able to report. They don't tell you what would have been able to have been communicated to Captain Mokgotlwe, either from criminals or from members of the SAPS who were in concert, acting in concert with criminals.
Okay, we're going to pause there with the Madlanga Commission, which we've taken, let's call it ball by ball coverage, if I can put it that way, for the first hour of the show. This is the National Pulse. Let's get the news. It's 4 p.m. Years on Della.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, G20 meet focuses on food loss and waste prevention, and UN peacekeepers accused of shooting down an Israeli drone. For SAFM News, I am Ondalambana, and a very good afternoon. A G20 meeting looking at food loss and waste prevention in sub-Saharan Africa has revealed that approximately 10.3 million tons of edible food in South Africa does not reach the human stomach. That's 34% of all food in South Africa. The country hosted the 9th regional workshop on the matter in Pretoria. It was a strategic session led by the governments of Germany, New Zealand and South Africa, sharing insights to promote food security and combat waste. About 30% of South Africans are food insecure. Concerns have been raised over excessive price volatility and persistent food inflation. Weaknesses have also been highlighted in food storage system. Council for Scientific and Industrial Research Professor Susan Olofse.
Our research revealed that approximately 10.3 million tons of edible food really does not reach the human stomach. That is an astounding 34% of all food produced in South Africa. And if you take into consideration that we export quite a bit of the food that we produce, it comes down to 45% of the food available for consumption in South Africa. And I think that should really have us sit up straight, realizing how inefficient our food systems are.
The Board of Athletics South Africa has announced its intention to suspend the federation's president, James Malloy. This comes after the South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee's probe into revelations made before the Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Sports, Arts and Culture regarding the alleged misuse of an ASA-issued credit card by Malloy. An ASA disciplinary committee will also investigate whether any other officials of ASA, including its acting chief executive officer and finance manager, should be subjected to disciplinary proceedings concerning their role in the use of the credit card. In the event of Malloy's suspension, Deputy President John Matane will be appointed acting president until further notice. SAPS ballistic expert Brigadier Meshach Mkabela has questioned delays in crucial evidence reaching his department. Mkabela has told the Madlanga Commission that although the murder of Vereeniging engineer Ahmad Swart occurred on 17 April last year, a bullet recovered during the victim's autopsy only arrived at the forensic laboratory nearly 3 months later. Mkabela raised concerns about the chain of custody and possible mishandling of the evidence.
When the IO wants the report, they will not consider the part that they played in order to delay the case. They will want you to finalize the case now. But when you check the timelines, surely the autopsy was not performed around August. I don't think so. So surely the bullet was lying somewhere and someone delayed to deliver it in the lab. Just by way of passing, deceased was shot on the 17th of April. Surely it could not have taken 3 months for autopsy to be conducted on the body to remove the bullet.
Israel has accused United Nations peacekeepers of deliberately shooting down one of its drones in Lebanon. The UN force says it targeted the device because it flew over a patrol in an aggressive manner. Israel says the drone was conducting routine intelligence gathering and posed no threat to the peacekeepers. The BBC's Hugo Bachega has the details.
Despite a ceasefire that came into force last November, ending the war with the Lebanese movement Hezbollah, Israel has continued to fly drones and carry out airstrikes on people and targets in Lebanon, it says, are linked to the group. The military says it is acting to prevent Hezbollah from regrouping and rearming. The United Nations and the Lebanese government say Israel's actions are a violation of the country's sovereignty and in breach of the ceasefire deal. The Israeli military has intensified its attacks recently, as Hezbollah insists it will not disarm despite international and domestic pressure.
The iconic Antigua Choo-Choo is one step closer to making its long-awaited return to the Guardian route after nearly 2 decades. The steam train has been out of service since the 2006 floods damaged the rail line between George and Niset. Today, Transnet and the privately owned Classic Rail signed a consortium agreement that will see the revival of the railway line, and the Antigua Choo-Choo CEO of Classic Rail, Alan McVitie, says work will soon start on the line between Satchfield and Hokama, with plans to have the Choo-Choo running this route by May next year and the full route between Knysna and George by 2028.
What we're doing now in the next 2 weeks is to reassess what the damage is on the line, because we've done site inspections over the last 20 years, but we haven't been on the line for 8 to 10 years. So we need to reassess what the final capex is, but we're aware that it's going to be more, and we've made provision for that, but we need to know the exact number. So that's part of our plans right now, is to get back on the line and check what the condition is.
Recapping the top story, a G20 meeting looking at food loss and waste prevention in sub-Saharan Africa has revealed that approximately 10.3 million tons of edible food in South Africa does not reach the human stomach. That's 34% of all food in South Africa. I'm Lambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Athletics South Africa president faces suspension. Conrad relying on T20 experience in tough subcontinent conditions, and Pirates seek redemption against Magesi. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and the R28 Paardekraal Road northbound in Krugersdorp is where a crash is reported near Robert Broom Drive. In KZN, the N2 southbound, a crash after the M41 gateway exit, all lanes are open, and on the N3 westbound, a crash at the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards Bunga Avenue and the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
FCA will only be happy with maximum points. However, PVP believe they will paint Augsburg in yellow and black. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch FC Augsburg and Borussia Dortmund on Friday, 31 October at 8:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4 and everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, so proceedings at the Madlanga Commission adjourned until tomorrow, so we'll pick that conversation up tomorrow. Lots of the conversation, by the way, has been on that point from Gaten McKenzie, the Minister of Sport, getting on people to be patriotic about all South African clubs, and I use the word clubs, not national teams, when they play, in continental or global football or other sports. For example, Pirate supporters should rally behind Chiefs and Sundowns, that sort of thing. I thought, Tumi and I had that conversation earlier on, but I thought the tweet from Yem Zondwa is just like, well, it does it for me. Yem says, nowhere in the world is patriotism delivered at club level. There is no way I will support Chiefs. Even if they play against an empty stadium, I will support the stadium. And that's saying the minister is crazy. I think you're right, actually, that, for example, as I talk to you now, there are people who support, Real Madrid or Barcelona or Manchester United or Liverpool, that sort of thing from South Africa. But it doesn't mean you support that club. You support England or Spain. No, it's completely It's a tribe. You're part of a tribe that supports that football club, which just happens to have players from all around the world. And you don't make the connection to say a win for Man United is a win for England. Oh, that's fantastic. Or a win for Real Madrid, as it did last night, is a win for Spain. Not at all. It's very, very tribalistic. All right, I'm going to pick up your thoughts on that. You can certainly call, you can WhatsApp as well, and certainly also refer to the Madlanga Commission because I want to get your opinions on that too. But let's pick up for the second hour with a very, very disturbing story. Hundreds of people gathered at the Durban CBD today to demand justice for the Dlamini twins who fell down a lift shaft during repairs at their block of flats a week ago. I mean, that sort of story we just hear far too many of those horrific, sad, completely preventable stories, don't you think? With me is the SABC News reporter, Non Klakanipo Waza, who's been covering the story. Appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to the listener at home.
Right. So let's start with the protest today. I mean, tell me more about that. What was the protest about? How big? What was their end goal?
It was actually huge, Ashraf. At first, we thought it's raining, it will only be about 20 people. When we got there, it was over 100 people outside the residential block of flats in the city. They were protesting, they were singing, they held, it was community, NGOs, political parties, communities or residents of other residential buildings associated with this company who owns these buildings. They were all out there protesting, picketing outside, demanding answers because they feel that the management of these block of flats is not coming forth with answers regarding the date for one of the twins. One of the girl's twin is currently in a coma in hospital since last week. So they are demanding answers, and they are also calling on the municipality and other authorities to implement and make sure that these buildings, these residential buildings around the Durban CBD, as well as these hijacked buildings, bylaws be implemented because they feel that the municipality following implementing bylaws on these buildings. And that's why this incident happened. But when there was one woman as well, apparently her daughter passed away in 2023 in the same building. She also fell in an elevator shaft. And until now, the sent from post by the management. They have not come to them and even liaised with them as to what happened. And with the Dlamini family, they're saying that there was no signpost or any warning that the elevator is not working or people should be aware of the repairs being done on the elevator.
Okay. What was the response? I mean, so you had these hundreds of people with their demands, and I mean, your point about the elevator, we hear that far too often where these buildings then become complete death traps, isn't it? Was there a response from anybody in terms of receiving the complaints, whether it's local authorities, whether it could be even the owners of the building? You know, was there any response that you could share?
After marching or protesting outside this particular building, they also went to the headquarters of these residential buildings. They demanded actually outside to see the manager of these buildings. And he had no choice. He came out, he received a memorandum, and the memorandum it listed all the expectations on the building that everything should be in order and the building should be fumigated because some of the residents were complaining that these buildings are infested with cockroaches and rats as well. And some of the lifts are not working and stuff like that. So he received the memorandum, but he was a bit incoherent when he was addressing the crowd. We couldn't hear actually what he was saying or whether or not he was accepting responsibility or he was relaying the message to his higher up afterwards. So we couldn't actually get wind of what exactly their response, management response is. We are currently at the police cause The father of the child was complaining that some of the documents were missing in his docket. So they went to the police station to demand answers as well, because they also felt that the police did not actually respond in time to his when he went to the case. So the police and Colonel Robert Mitsunda was there to see whether or not everything was in his docket. And he did say that for now they're in inquest at the murder case. With time, they will see what it is that to change, whether it allows a warrant to change docket from an inquest to a murder docket.
I see amongst the people gathered, they are in collective support of the father, Kaya Dlamini, and they effectively want that building shut down. I mean, realistically, does anybody believe that may well actually happen?
I doubt it will happen because it's over 100 people live there in those block of flats. If building is shut down, where are all these other people going to go? We also did ask the father of the child whether or not he was living in the building after the incident. And he said currently there's no way to go, so they are just living with relatives and are looking for a way to go inside, or there's sort of like tension and conflict between the family and the owners of that are seeking or someone to intervene and probably accompany them to gather their belongings, because they've already paid the rent for this month, so it will be unlikely for them to just up and go.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Non Tlakanipo, Mike Gwaza, the SABC News reporter, covering the terrible story of the twins who fell down a lift shaft. One of them passing on. This is during repairs to a block of flats a week ago, and we just hear these type of stories so often. Any thoughts you have on that in terms of getting it right? Because there's these flood of people who want to occupy flats because they have nowhere else to go, and when they do that, ultimately then service delivery fails because they can't keep up with it in terms of landlords or landowners, and then the cost that goes with it, and then too many people live there, and then as a result of it everybody's compromised. But what's the solution? As you just heard the reporter say, well, you can't move elsewhere because they will be out of a place to stay, and nobody can look after them. So come on, put on your thinking caps and come up with some bright solutions so we don't have recurrences of these issues. Let's talk about the Eastern Cape mining indaba after this.
This October month, SFM joins the world in breast cancer awareness. We bring you conversations that highlight the importance of early detection, survivor stories that inspire hope, and expert advice that could save lives. Together, let's spread awareness and support the fight against breast cancer. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, let's talk about another issue that is all about growth. Really, we touched on the Eastern Cape. We were there a couple of weeks back and focused on the growth of the plans to grow the automotive industry. This is, of course, they themselves have come under serious pressure. So that's one thing. Well, what about the mining industry? Now, the Eastern Cape Province itself is hosting the 3rd annual Eastern Cape Province 2025 Mining CSI in Durban. It comes up, Thursday, Friday, so at the weekend in East London. The theme for the year is unlocking the full mining value chain for inclusive growth and sustainable development. Let's find out more about it with the MD of the Eastern Cape Province Mining Indaba. That's Thando Mandela. Well, thank you for joining us here on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Thank you for having me, and greetings to your listeners.
Thank you. So what are the expectations, first up, about this mining Indaba? You have it for 2 days, you have a plan, and you want something to come out of it. What would that be?
We want a lot of things to come out. Number one, we would like to attract investors to the Eastern Cape Province to explore the mining potential that the Eastern Cape Province has. And in turn, another one is we need to look at supplier development in the field of the mining value chain. We'd like to attract investors for training, investors for energy, investors to participate in the just transition, including Eastern Cape Province. We also need investors for exploration, collaboration, and we also need to now position the Eastern Cape Province in the mining space as part of the contributors of the mining trade in South Africa.
Hmm. Tell me more about, because I mean it's a conference, there's people coming together. So who would be present in terms of exhibiting the type of conversations that take place, the opportunities to actually do business, and then of course who will be attending?
All right, let me first tell you about our speakers and participants. In terms of the participants and the speakers, we have government representatives. You're looking at the Ministry of Health. You're looking at Minister of Land Reform. We're looking at mining. The mining part, as I say, is that what top of the land is knows what's underneath is when it comes to minerals in South Africa. So that means that there should be a dialogue that is healthy between our traditional leaders as well as our government. So have those stakeholders present. And got Rand Mutual Assurance, RMA, who is in COIDA as well as rehabilitation, mine rehabilitation. And basically all the stakeholders. We've got entrepreneurs, we've got business people, we also have CEOs of mines and GMs. We've got the CEO of Fleet Demonstrator who's joining us, and she's from the Eastern Cape. We've got renowned mine experience personnel that are actually from South Africa and their stakeholders also.
Hmm. And therefore, let's go back to that end goal. I mean, at the end of the day, at the end of the conference, by the weekend, you want to, that phrase, you want to shift the needle. What would that needle shift mean? From what to what?
The shift would be one. Now South Africa, now Eastern Cape Province becomes recognized in the mining value chain. For example, at the moment, we are known as majorly as a labor-sending province, but we've got mines that need to be explored. We've got deposits that have been identified that need investment. And I'll just make an example for you, which I made when I had the other interview. We started this over our third year now. And the people that came through, I can tell you now, people that came through, they have been testament that they've made about 10 million rand profit or collaboration with the visitors that came from abroad, So in terms of economic impact, which is what we want at the end of the day, that is happening. We just need to drive and keep up momentum and make it more sustainable, and we want it to be more inclusive so that we don't, when we count stories, we don't want to count women, which is currently 2 women that make that got an opportunity to be part of our collaboration that secured about 10 million worth of investment. We want to be able to count more entrepreneurs, more businesses that are playing in that space.
What about, of course, I mean, the sectors, cut across all sectors from, construction to ICT and innovation and agriculture and across the board, right? What, however, from an Eastern Cape point of view in particular, considering, when it comes to trading and investment, it could be people from outside of South Africa and Africa from out, all around the world. What is it then that makes not just South Africa, but the Eastern Cape a unique, what gives you the unique selling proposition or point that they would seek?
All right. It's potential with purpose, right? Eastern Cape Province is well known for human capital. It's also well known for vast land that has not been utilized. That then means that there's opportunities for us. There's gas deposits that have been identified because we've got the ocean economy, right? Which has not been fully explored, which has not been fully developed, right? So in terms of the Eastern Cape potential, is quite positive for growth and progress. We just need investors now in Eastern Cape potential. Human capital we have. So if we can train these people to use but human capital, it means that the economy of the Eastern Cape Province will increase and will improve.
This at the time when, people compete with each other on a national or global basis, but also regionally as well. Well, thank you for your time. If they need to know more, give me a website I can direct people to.
Pardon? I'm sorry, I didn't get that
Give
part.
me a website or another link I can direct people to.
It's www.ecminingindaba.co.za, and they can also email at ecminingindaba.co.za. If you just go on Google and you just put Eastern Cape Mining Indaba, it will pop up. We're also on Instagram. Instagram handle is also EC Mining Indaba.
Okay, got that. EC Mining Indaba. Thank you for your time, Tando Mandela, the Managing Director of, EC Mining Indaba, the Eastern Cape Province Mining Indaba. Would you be attending that Indaba over the next 2 days? Well, Thursday, Friday in East London, I understand. Think about that. I'd love to know what you think. In the meantime, I want to pick out some of your voice notes. Let's do, right, here's one. The issue of patriotism comes up.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Aaron here. On Chiefs, Pirates, Sundowns, patriotism, it will never happen. Pirates today keep on telling Chiefs about a star that they won in 1927. I'm sure that trophy is shrunk now, but they keep on telling Kaizer Chiefs fans, you don't have a star. They don't say, oh, we wish Kaizer Chiefs to also have a star. No.
What did they win in 1927? What star was won in 27?
We wish Mbogazi all the best as Kaizer Chiefs fans, by the way.
Okay, well, there you are. You would wish other teams well. I understand that. All right, thank you for that. 1927, couldn't pick up quite what star there was. We're going to get Tumi coming up in a minute, but she'll do well to listen to some of these comments, right?
Hey, good afternoon, SAFM. Look, to be honest, I'm a Bataneer. So it's a bit difficult for me to support Kaizer Chiefs because Kaizer Chiefs fans, they like to Chiefs, I wish them to lose there. Thank you.
You see, there's no something on the fence on this thing here. And Tumi's now, can you imagine Tumi supporting Chiefs, Pirates, and Sundowns in one go, and Stellenbosch and like the whole league.
I do.
Yeah, well, that's why you're a sports anchor and you're not the supporter. I'll give you a chance to pause and think about it. Let's get the news headlines. It's 4:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, a suspect has been arrested in connection with the murder of 2 women in Mamelodi, East Pretoria. The women were in their early 20s. They were fatally shot on Sunday. A G20 meeting looking at food loss and waste prevention in sub-Saharan Africa has revealed that approximately 10.3 million tons of edible food in South Africa does not reach the human stomach. And US President Donald Trump is in Tokyo on the latest leg of his tour of Asian countries. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Kulufelo Defu.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Giluli's interchange. Houghton Drive northbound in Parktown has delays towards Newton Street, and Christina de Wit Avenue southbound in Pretoria has a crash near Euphues Road. In KZN, rain across parts of Durban, so please reduce your speeds and drive with care in the affected areas. And the N3 westbound has a crash at the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road, Swartklip Road and Khayelitsha queuing at Govan Bekkie Road, and Albert Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
To me, you are our own Minister of Sport. The one minister says, please, Chiefs supporters, support Pirates. Please support Sundowns. Sundowns supporters, please support Chiefs. Please love Pirates, and vice versa. And many people, as that
We
one
are
line.
South Africans.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard one of the listeners saying that they'd rather support an empty stadium. And I'm sure he's probably
against Chiefs.
Against Chiefs.
If Chiefs plays an empty stadium.
I see.
Empty stadium.
Okay, because I was about to say perhaps he's a Chiefs fan because I feel like Chiefs fans are outrageous. I mean, I grew up with this guy. He was basically my brother. Every single time Chiefs lost, he would burn his jersey. The next week, he's going to buy a new one. So you can imagine how many times has Chiefs lost? And then they still go. And then when Chiefs is not doing well, he's like, I'd rather not support football. I'm done.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I have another theory based upon what I know early on we spoke about. And I believe that the minister is naive because I think club football is so highly charged. They'll support the national team and they'll still hope their player from their club scores. But if they don't, they'll go for it. Okay. But in many ways, let's put it this way, the success of Sundowns, I think they've qualified for 11 successive years in the Champions League knockout stages or group stages. What it should do actually is the patriotism must encourage Chiefs to lift their game and encourage Pirates to lift their game. So the desire to knock them off their perch, right, from the other teams, to knock Sundowns off their perch, must actually serve to lift Chiefs and Pirates from where they are. And in that case, Sundowns are helping.
Not for them to get them supporting the club. Well, let's get straight into what's happening.
Let me ask you one thing. I'll just throw this out there. Can one person call in who supports one of those three clubs and then will totally support one of the other two, right, when your team is not playing, when they play
continentally or like international stage? I think there are some non-Sundowns fans who were supporting Sundowns when they were playing the Club World Cup.
Yeah, maybe that was like a grudging acceptance. It's such a rare occurrence. I mean, I can't imagine. Okay.
Do you think if you
look
Chiefs,
historically,
okay.
Chiefs and Pirates are from the same community, some Soweto,
Yeah.
historically. So can you imagine, now take it a step further, that Chiefs loses in a knockout tournament, right? And
Yeah.
Pirates now, I'm talking local. Pirates are now playing Stellenbosch in some cup final. And all the Chiefs supporters say, but Pirates are our Soweto brothers and sisters. We must support them. Show our patriotism to Soweto. It's not going to happen. They're all supporting Stellies. I can tell you that for sure.
Well, in the world of sports this hour, Athletics South Africa President James Moloi is facing suspension. This is after a forensic report on his use of the Federation's credit card. In a statement released today, the ASA board have asked Moloi to give reasons as to why he should not be suspended by Friday. Now, Moloi reportedly used Athletics South Africa's funds for personal expenses, including purchases at clothing stores, restaurants, local shebeens, and alcohol for their business associates. And SASCOC President Barry Hendricks has confirmed that the investigation had been completed and that the final report has been submitted to both the Sports Minister, Gayton McKenzie, and the Athletics South Africa Board. Then in cricket, Proteas coach Shukri Conrad will rely on player and coach experience when they begin the T20 International Series against Pakistan tomorrow. Speaking ahead of the match, Conrad says that past participation in the Pakistan Premier League will come in handy for the team, with the knowledge of the conditions key to their success in the shortest format of the game.
We've got our last practice this evening, where we'll just add the finishing touches to it. But yeah, I think coming to Pakistan, the subcontinent, whatever format is tough. They obviously know their conditions really well, but we've also had guys that have played in the PSL and have played here before, and also we've also got access to former players that have played here, and so we can tap into that as well. So yeah, we're pretty confident with how our preparation's gone, and it's all about execution now.
Meanwhile, Proteas women wicket-keeper batter Sinalo Jafta sees their loss to Australia as a chance to self-reflect and reset strategy at the ongoing ICC Women's World Cup in India and Sri Lanka. South Africa lost to the defending champions by 7 wickets, having been put to bat first and posting 97 earlier on Saturday. Captain Laura Favart top scored with 31, while Jafta posted 29 runs, and she says that they'll have to go back and work on their batting some more before the semi-finals against England.
We're facing England, and I think for us, we obviously played them the first game, and I mean, it didn't go out the way we wanted. But I think going into that match, we know exactly what to do. We've prepped, and it's not that no game like this makes us a bad squad. It's just to literally hone in together. And I mean, the culture has been brilliant, so we've got that bounce back ability.
In football, Kaizer Chiefs co-coach Cedric Kaze is relishing the challenging field the team is set to face in the CAF Confederation group stages. Chiefs reached the lucrative phase of the tournament after brushing aside as number 3-1 at the Dobson Stadium. And with teams like Wydad Casablanca, Zamalek, amongst others, Kaze says that he can't wait.
I believe it's it's a tremendous. I think that I haven't maybe realized yet. Maybe tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and see the what we have done so far. But I'm very especially I'm very happy for the fans. They have struggled to enjoy or to have joy, and we are just with humility happy that we could contribute to this big history.
In the meantime, Orlando Pirates will be determined to redeem themselves when they play host to Magezi FC in the Carling Knockout quarterfinal match at Orlando Stadium tomorrow night at 7:30. Bucks are still wounded from crashing out of the CAF Champions League. However, Bucks are undefeated in their last two matches in regulation time across all competitions after thrashing Lupopo 3-0 at the Orlando Stadium. Elsewhere, Serie A leaders Napoli could be without Kevin De Bruyne until early 2026. This is after the club confirmed that he suffered a hamstring injury. The midfielder was hurt while scoring a penalty in his team's 3-1 home win over Inter Milan. It was De Bruyne's fourth league goal of the season in Italy since moving from City in the close season. Just before I say goodbye, apparently there's a comment from our listener.
There's lots of comments from listeners, but let me
that wants to challenge me.
Let me play this one. Yeah.
Hi, Jumi.
Hi.
I was traumatized. I had about 4 uncles. Ne? 3 were Chief supporters. 1 was Pirates. You know what? Ne? Those people, they made me not love football until I was an adult myself, and so football is a leisure thing. It's something that you can enjoy watching, because they would beat each other up. But what I used to observe was that when Chiefs lost, there would be fights all the time.
You see? Chiefs fans are outrageous.
Wow, there we are. Listen, just that last one. We know that, 3 weeks ago, Man United were almost like going to be relegated, right?
Yeah.
And now they're above Liverpool.
I mean,
but again, to prove a point, I've seen on groups the amount of, there's not one Man United fan that feels sorry for Liverpool now. They just love the fact that they've lost 4 games in a row. But that rivalry is what fuels excellence. Think about it. The rivalry is what raises clubs to play at a higher level, because they know they're going to get hammered from their rivals when they lose. So look at it in a positive light, Gaten McKenzie. Get clubs to be at each other and use that being at each other to raise their level of excellence against the fear of being mocked at. There we are. More sport in an hour.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Well, there's facts and figures about business. I can't imagine Pick n Pay saying Checkers are top of the log. Yay, man. But Markway Maskela is with us from Markway Fund Managers, and he's got the interims from Pick n Pay, which I think Checkers would have a look at, but may or may not celebrate it. I don't think so. Markway?
And remember, how are you, Ashraf? Afternoon, listeners. Remember, Pick n Pay got 2,280 supermarkets in SA. Shoprite, they've got almost 3,400 stores in SA. So Shoprite continues to be the big boy. They're still making losses, but the guys from Pick n Pay have seen some significant recovery as they reduced interim headline losses by 45%. But I guess it was not enough to put the market as the share price got almost 2%. And that reduction was driven by the 273% trading profit increase and over up 4.9% held by the growth from Baxter. Remember that even though they listed Baxter separately in November last year, as still the majority shareholder, and Pick n Pay closing continues to expand.
and continue to gain market share. And we have seen that investor sentiment strengthened after last week U.S. consumer inflation data reinforced the bet that the Fed will cut interest rates on Wednesday. Our rate decision, Ashraf, will be on November the 30th. And further to that, U.S. signed a flurry of trade deals with four Southeast Asian partners on Sunday. And still yesterday, U.S. and Chinese trade officials held up a framework for a trade deal which could be approved on Thursday by their respective presidents. This looks like a win on optics for both sides. And on the flip side, trade tensions with Canada escalated. Oil prices are steady as traders digested potential progress when it comes to that U.S.-China trade talks. And we've seen Brent crude is up 0.1% at $65 a barrel. And the potential U.S.-China trade deal entered safe haven appeal. And traders waiting for interest rate decisions from the U.S., Japan, Bank of England, and the European Central Bank. And we see gold is down 2.6% at 4,005. Platinum is up a mere 0.1% at 1,584. And as of so far, it's only the U.S. markets cheering up. The U.S. China trade progress. European markets are cautiously up. The local price is down 1.5%. That's after dropping 0.8% last week. And we've been dragged down mainly by our resources, which are down almost 6%. The rand is flat against the dollar 70.24, 22.98 against the pound, and 20.06 against the euro.
Well, there we are. Thanks for sharing all of that, Makwe. We'll connect with Jimmy Moyaha for an hour of the markets coming up from 6 to 7 this evening.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, I often talk about, building South Africa into a champion nation and getting everything working. And I often say we tend to celebrate sports victories less, or rather more, than other victories in other sectors of South African society. Well, in many ways, I think this one could well be a victory because there's news here that South Africa has become the first African country and our medicines regulator, the third worldwide, to register the revolutionary twice-a-year anti-HIV jab, right? That could bring an end to HIV/AIDS if enough people take it. So let's find out what is it all about? How significant is this? And is it worth celebrating in the same way that we would celebrate big, World Cup victories? For example, Mia Malan with me, founder and editor-in-chief of Becky Sisa. Mia, good to connect with you once again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Right. So how significant, we'll talk about the details, but upfront, how significant is this?
Well, first of all, I think it is significant with regards to the speed at which our medicines regulators SAHPRA did this. To give you a bit of context, when SAHPRA registered COVID vaccines, the one that they registered the fastest took 75 days to register. And they managed to register injection lenacapavir, or in short LEN, in 65 days. So we've done it really at record speed. But the reason why it's so significant is because scientists see this injection as an absolute potential game changer. That first of all, you only have to take it once every 6 months, so adherence doesn't become such a big problem. If you compare it to what we already have is a daily pill, some people find it hard to take that pill each day, and the less often you take it, the less well it works. So that is very important that we now that it's registered, it means we are able to into South Africa. It doesn't mean the health department can already buy it. It first needs to get it onto a list of medicines that can be bought. It's called the essential medicines list. But what it does mean is that the first doses that we're going to get will be bought by the Global Fund. And those doses can now soon enter the country, and it is planned for those doses to arrive before the end of the year in South Africa.
Right, just remind me, what does the Global Fund mean? I think that became very much currency around the time of COVID-19.
Yes, that's a great question. So the Global Fund to fight HIV, TB, and malaria is a very large multilateral fund. And multilateral means the money from it comes from various areas, from governments that are wealthier than poorer countries. South Africa actually donates to the Global Fund as well, but we also get funded by it. And that fund has for years been involved in South Africa's response to HIV, giving us money for HIV activities. And they asked us for our next grant, you get this grant for a period of 3 years at a time. For the current grant that actually kicked in this month, they asked us to use 520 million rands of that for Lenacapavir.
So, people listening would, and they hear lots of things that you just said and lots of jargon, but ultimately they'll come back and say, okay, how is this going to change their lives? What does it matter to me? Why should it matter?
Well, let me explain how it works, and maybe that will help people to understand. So, lenacapavir is an antiretroviral drug, and that is the same medicine that people who already have HIV use for treatment. So, it is something that knows how to confuse HIV to not infiltrate your cells. Now, in this case, this lenacapavir will be used as a form of HIV prevention. So, it will be HIV negative to prevent you from getting positive. And what it does is messes with a part of the virus called the capsid. It is a shell around the DNA of the virus. And it prevents that virus to replicate. The virus cannot survive if it doesn't replicate. And the beauty about this drug is that it's a long-acting drug. So it takes 6 months to release itself into your body. And that's why you only need to take it once every 6 months. How it works is you have to test HIV negative before you can get it. And then on your first visit, you will get 2 injections. It's one dose, but because it's too much to fit into one syringe, you will get 2 injections. And you'll also be asked to take 4 pills. 2 pills along with the injection, and on the day thereafter, another 2 pills. If you then return to your second dose within 26 weeks, so before 6.5 months or further, then you don't have to take the pills again. And if you only have to go twice a year to be pretty sure that you will not get HIV, then that's a very good intervention for you. And in our country, the group of people who get the most HIV infections at the moment is women between 15 and 24. So young women and teen girls. So it's an intervention that in a trial that was partly conducted in South Africa, but not a single one of those women contracted HIV.
Well, look, to go twice a year versus say going monthly is a big difference. And of course, I would think there's cost factors, implications in terms of productivity for the people we're talking about in their jobs in the workplaces. But the one flip side of that is the fact that you only have to go twice a year. Does that possibly open up an avenue of them forgetting to go compared to something very regular?
Well, the short answer to that is we don't know because we haven't rolled it out yet. All that we know is what happens in clinical trials. And we know that in trials, the trials have a lot more resources and methods to get people to return for their doses. Now, the first thing is, Len is not this form of HIV prevention. When you take it, it's not forever for the rest of your life. It's for periods during which you think you have a high chance. Maybe you have more than one partner during that period. Or maybe your husband, works in another place. And when he comes back over a weekend or, a period for a holiday, you may be concerned. Maybe you live in a relationship where you're sure someone your partner only has one partner. So you use that during a time of risk. It doesn't mean you need to use it for the rest of your life. Whether you would come back to your second dose, we are rolling out this month. There are 2 implementation trials, one in Cape Town, one in Pretoria or Tshwane, and they are looking at these things. Do people come back for their doses? How do they prefer to get them? Are they prepared to go to a clinic, or do you need to have a mobile clinic that goes into communities? And we will be, gathering information like that. It's nothing like the real life to show you. And there are all kinds of things that health workers and researchers are looking at, like using AI, using SMS messages to remind people to come for their doses. You can't use nothing. You can't just people to return naturally. You need to give them some help with it. And those implementation trials will also be looking at what sort of things that you can do and work the best to make people return for doses.
Okay, well, they are very, very interesting indeed. So there we are. to confirm a twice a year anti-HIV jab. Just tell me if people need to know more. I mean, you've done a story on this, I think, with Becky Caesar. How can I direct them to that? And please also feel free to tweet it out, tag SFM Radio and myself. But where can they find out more?
Yes, they can come to our website, which is beckyseaside.org, and read the story. But they can also go to our medicines regulator, SAHPRA's website, if they wanted to read the press release that they issued this morning.
Okay, thank you. Well, but feel free to tweet us as well and just tag us. I'd gladly share that as well. Very important. Mia Milan, founder and editor-in-chief of Becky Caesar. There we are. That's another big conversation to talk about. Does that move you? As it should, because we pick up on the issues that moves the national pulse. What about the conversation we had earlier on? Well, conversation. We were listening in to the Madlanga Commission. What did you pick up from there today that you'd like to touch on? And by the way, that Mandela lecture that took place on Saturday that we at SFM covered as well. Any thoughts, any lines that came out of that you'd like to pick up on? I'll talk to you next.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, let's, in fact, I want to hear what you have to say. And there's lots of thoughts about patriotism. And I can tell you now, it's interesting. There's more about patriotism about chiefs and pirates than patriotism about, doing things for your country in the medical field, in industry, in linking personal purpose to national purpose. And you may wonder why. But having said that, hey, if that moves the pulse today, we need to pick up on it. But let's pick up this story.
Ashraf Garda, I fully agree with ballistic expert Brigadier Mishak Mukavela. We are living in a very, very dangerous country. Criminals have taken over our beautiful country. It is so bad, so bad.
Wow, listen, I think, by the way, we're going to have a chat with the ANC spokesperson after 5. Listen out for that, because what's come out of the Madlanga Commission, what's come out of the ad hoc committee is so many question marks about the people in positions of leadership. And naturally, the questions would be like, who's put them there? And by and large, not exclusively so, the ANC had a major role in that. So, yes, we must talk about them, about that.
Hey, good afternoon, SAFM. Look, to be honest, I'm a Bataneer. So it's a bit difficult for me to support Kaizer Chiefs because Kaizer Chiefs fans, they like to Chiefs, I wish them to lose there. Thank you.
Well, listen, it's a good question to ask. What is it? What is patriotism? And how does that manifest? It may not be as obvious as you think, right? Right, Christian Leidenberg, hi.
Hi, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed, right? Go for it. Your point?
Good. Great show as always.
Much appreciated, yeah.
One of the things that I've observed in terms of why we South Africans generally are passionate when it comes to our respective teams versus our patriotism to the country is that I think we choose our team at a age, grow up with them, and somehow we feel like you've got control over what your team versus politicians, literally there's nothing you can really do to influence what comes of South Africa. But I mean, influence what is your team is playing good, you just the same. We support them, whatever the country, you have to wait for the voting time to come change. I mean, what you vote things much in terms of the direction the country is taking. For example, you don't even get to vote for your president. You vote for them and then make
Well, many people want to have their change, and you know that, right? Christian Leidenberg, thanks for that. Let's talk about the Mandela lecture. Salo in Mokopane, I'm glad you want to talk about it. Go for it, Salo.
Thank you so much, Ashraf. I think the previous caller
summed it up very nicely so Calabash. Ashraf, my question will I will put a question. Does this lectures of all these the so-called heroes and whatnot,
Yeah.
are they having any meaningful or objective things that the country can learn of? And are we following it, making follow-ups about what they have talked about last years, or we just go with the flow, Mandela lecture this year, and then that's it, and then we take the same old story.
So what do
Yeah,
you think
they have a good
as you ask that question? Do you want to answer it?
imagine imagine we're thinking that the government will listen to people speaking there while they fail to do or implement their policies.
Okay. Well,
What you, I mean, that's so funny. I mean, those who are managing these lectures, I wish just tell them one day, Ashraf, maybe during this week, what are they gaining or what do they give South Africans in their lectures? Because I don't think they for me.
Well, okay. I mean, what's the opposite of that? Not to talk at all. Solo in Mokopane. I mean, what do we do? You can call that a national dialogue. You can call it that. The question is, what do you do with it? Although, in a case like this, the Mandela Lecture is very much an international dialogue. Remember, because we've had the vast majority of speakers. I wonder how many South Africans have actually delivered the lecture. I think the majority are from outside because it is the nature of how it's been set up. It's not government. It's how it's been set up, and it's been set up to speak and set an agenda for the world. And there's, maybe I'll give you some of my thoughts on that just after the news, or maybe before. We'll see what. No, after. But here's one.
Hi, to me, this is Sabata from Durban, a fanatic Chiefs and football fan. But I'm a very strange Chiefs fan. I must, even if I have to say so myself, that whenever Pirates is playing other teams, I support Orlando Pirates, especially in these African competitions and cup games. I usually support Pirates than other teams. I don't really like Sundowns. I don't really support them whenever they are playing other teams in the PSL. But if they are playing African teams, opposition, I support Sundowns. I'm patriotic like that.
Okay, you are.
Thank you.
You will please Gayton McKenzie a lot. I'm sure of that. Here's there's so many about this. Here's another.
Okay. Ashraf, this is Monday in Cape Town. I'll be real quick. I've been supporting Chiefs since 1971. I was doing grade 4. All right? My four sons still support Parades, still support Chiefs. I can tell you for free. There's no way that you can support Parades if they lose. Remember, when Parades lose, there's quiet in the streets. When Chiefs lose, Parades will say it's quiet in the streets. So rivalry will always be there.
Do you have supper together? I mean, I'm looking at the family. That's what I want to know. Do you actually have supper together? Right. We were chatting. In fact, I'll take more of your calls on that, but also give some of my own thoughts of the Mandela lecture maybe after we chat to the spokesperson for the African National Congress, that's Matlengi Bengu Motsiri, about, well, their perspective of the state of the nation in many ways. But let's pause on that for the moment. Let's get to the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg.
Top stories at 5. Suspect arrested for killing 2 women in Mamelodi, and Parliament looks into Milnerton High School bullying incidents. Good afternoon, I'm Kolofelo. Therefore, a suspect has been arrested in connection with the murder of 2 women in Mamelodi East in Pretoria in Gauteng. The women were in their early 20s. They were fatally shot yesterday. A third victim, who was also shot, is receiving medical treatment at healthcare facility. Gauteng Police spokesperson Tenzwalo Sibeko.
Acting on this information, a joint team consisting of detectives from Gauteng Provincial Serious and Violence Crime Unit, Provincial Crime Intelligence, and Mamelodi East detectives arrested the suspect at a filling station in Pretoria. The suspect is expected to appear before the Mamelodi Magistrate Court on Wednesday, 29 October 2025.
The Mpumalanga division of the High Court sitting in Mbombela has once again adjourned the trial of the men accused of killing Hilary Gadi, the daughter of the EFF Deputy President Godrich Gadi. Court adjourned to allow convicted murderer Rasi Nkune time to get a new legal aid representative. Nkune dismissed his legal aid lawyer on Tuesday, saying they did not get along. Judge Lindiwe Vuyeka has again adjourned the matter, ordering the manager of the Legal Aid Board to come to court to explain the process to assign legal aid lawyers to accused persons. Nkune is accused of kidnapping and killing Gadi in 2022. The body was found in a plantation outside Mbombela. He is facing charges that include kidnapping and murder. Nkune is currently serving life sentence for the 2022 murder of his partner and her sister in Kanyamazane. In other news, a G20 meeting looking at food loss and waste prevention in sub-Saharan Africa has revealed that approximately 10.3 million tons of edible food in South Africa does not reach the human stomach. That's 34% of all foods in the country. South Africa hosted the 9th regional workshop on the matter in Pretoria in Gauteng. It was a strategic session led by the governments of Germany, New Zealand, and South Africa, sharing insights to promote food security and combat waste. Council for Scientific and Industrial Research Professor Susan Olofse.
Our research reveals that approximately 10.3 million tons of edible food annually does not reach the human stomach. That is an astounding 34% of all food produced in South Africa. And if you take into consideration that we export quite a bit of the food that we produce, it comes down to 45% of the food available for consumption in South Africa. And I think that should really have us sit up straight, realizing how inefficient our food systems are.
The Portfolio Committee on Basic Education says it has learned that there is a historical culture of bullying in some public schools in the Western Cape. The committee was reacting to an incident at Milnerton High School in Cape Town, where footage of social media shows a learner being assaulted by other boys with objects such as hockey sticks. Committee Chairperson Joy Maimela says the committee will visit the school and the department.
Our incidences that reported according to what we got, and actually also was a that was this could not what it knowing the incident that to the very what indicates this that so those are findings and we see
And finally, further afield, U.S. President Donald Trump is in Tokyo on the latest leg of his tour of Asian countries. He is meeting Emperor Naruhito before tomorrow's talks with Japan's new Prime Minister, Sanai Takaichi. The BBC's Shaima Khalil has the details.
This is a high-stakes visit for Japan. Tokyo will want to reaffirm that its defense alliance with Washington remains solid in an increasingly unstable region. President Trump is expected to push Japan to shoulder more of the security costs. Economically, Mr. Trump is looking for greater U.S. access to Japan's auto and agriculture markets, while Prime Minister Takaichi hopes to attract American investment and protect key domestic industries. Details of the U.S.-Japan tariff deal are yet to be hashed out.
The top story at 5, a suspect has been arrested in connection with the murder of 2 women in Mamelodi East in Pretoria in Gauteng. The women were in their early 20s. Headlines at 5:30 for SAFM News. I'm Kolofelo Defo.
In sports this hour, Bafana to play home friendly ahead of AFCON 2025. Athletics South Africa president faces suspension, and Conrad relying on T20 experience in tough subcontinent conditions. More details at 5:30.
Right, and let me tell you now, note this. This traffic report is brought to you by Otto & General Business Insurance. Otto & General, never not there. Otto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Johannesburg, slow moving towards Boysons. Grayston Drive eastbound in Sandton has delays towards the M1 highway, and Christina de Wit Avenue southbound in Pretoria has a crash near Ufius Road. In KZN, rain across parts of Durban, so please reduce your speeds and drive with care in the affected areas. And the M4 northbound has a crash near Quality Street. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound has a crash near Engine Services. The N1 outbound has a stationary vehicle on Plattekloof Hill, and Mill Street outbound queuing towards Roland Street. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
And this traffic report is brought to you by Auto and General Business Insurance. Auto and General, never not there. Auto and General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
At Auto and General, we understand your business is built on more than just vehicles. It's your stock, tools and equipment, and the premises where you work. Auto and General Business Insurance is designed for businesses like yours, protecting your assets against fire, theft, storms, and other unexpected events. To protect your livelihood, visit autogen.co.za and get an obligation-free business insurance quote. Auto and General, never not there. Auto and General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So let me give you some thoughts about that Nelson Mandela lecture. First of all, I mean, as per the previous caller, is it just a case of like they just talk? Look, it's not the Mandela organization's job to implement. They are a thought leader organization that brings people from around the world, and some of them you agree with and often you disagree with them, but you bring them here, and they then speak not just to South Africa, they speak to a global audience, because this lecture in the name of Nelson Mandela does attract a global audience. So in today's case, of course, it's Francesca Albanese. Well, today, Saturday. I know she's in Cape Town today, right? And was at Robben Island this morning, by the way, right? And we do know that, I mean, in terms of her role as the rapporteur, United Nations rapporteur for the Palestinian territories, I mean, that alone is probably the number one subject, global subject in the world today. So amongst the things that I'm trying to see if I can pick out some of the things that was said, right? She said something like, we have to be high on human rights and high on opposing injustice, right? And I'm paraphrasing some of it, but also saying that justice is not passive. Justice has to be pursued. And then for those who argued that, using the Nelson Mandela lecture to talk about an issue that touches on Israel and Palestine weaponizes the lecture, weaponizes Nelson Mandela. Well, the point that came through was that Nelson Mandela himself was an incredible weaponizer. Don't take his smiles as just that. When you reflect on his journey, he was an incredible weaponizer. But more than that, that the struggle for freedom is never the burden of one person. It has to be a collective. But also, she said that this genocide is apocalyptic in terms of what it is, utter devastation of a region. And then made the point that it's a textbook case of a genocide. And of course, many touched on even then and afterwards that it didn't start in October 2023. You have to go back to a long time to look at the root causes of what we have right now. But more than that, there were also issues spoken about, which I thought was interesting, using, the word Sumud that came out of the flotilla, right? That Sumud is the closest Arabic word to Ubuntu, the sense of oneness and compassion, and therefore the need to be Sumud in opposing and to providing relief to people, right? She also touched on Albanese about the issue of the complicity of states and businesses, and therefore private companies who've been complicit in perpetuating a genocide, and therefore felt that they, in fact, private companies, and this is a direct quote, have been the enablers of settler colonialism. And interestingly, Naledi Pandor was asked about other things in the fireside chat, and she conceded that with regard to South Africa, on economic emancipation, we have failed South Africa. We, as in the government, on economic emancipation, we have failed South Africa. Now, Those were some of the things that came through. There was a whole lot more, 3,500 people, but there were many other people who followed it on television, on radio like SAFM, and on streaming live. And there was a huge global audience as well to plug in. I think you do well to just pay attention to what was said, because what came through ultimately, and you can pick out the numbers of people who are activists there in that space, their role as activists and bearing witness to what, in this case, would be a genocide, but also in following the Mandela way, I think is a very important pointer to what we need and ought to do for the future. So that's some of my thoughts in terms of what came through at the Mandela lecture at the weekend. But there's more. And if you're entitled, if you want to, feel free to comment about that too. Let's talk about the ANC next.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, if we put the world in the spotlight regarding Palestine and Israel, then what about South Africa, which often does come up? Now, in the light of what we've been seeing in the last few weeks of the Madlanga Commission on one hand and Parliament's ad hoc committee, and it's been riveting, and you know that you've been listening very, very attentively, right? So, what about the ANC? There's been many people who've been pointing fingers to say, well, you see, all the problems ultimately emanate and maybe disseminate from the African National Congress as the party that has dominated South African politics, if not before 1990. In fact, it did, even in terms of its activism, but certainly from 1994 onwards as the party that's governed South Africa. So what about the ANC and what do they feel about the state of the country? Matlengi Bengu Motsiri is with me, the ANC's national spokesperson. Good to connect with you once again, Matlengi. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashmat.
Thank you. Right. So first things first, from an ANC perspective, I have to say ANC as opposed to government, right? What is the ANC's perspectives of, the state of South Africa right now?
Well, just start by saying, before speaking critically about some of the challenges we're facing, let me also say that with all of these challenges, particularly the challenge of unemployment, the challenge of an economy that is not growing, and therefore leaving, excluding a number of people out of economic participation. Some of our challenges have a lot to do with gender-based violence, femicide. Some of our challenges, talking about the economy, have a lot to do with dysfunctionality in municipalities. And of course, having noted all of these things, and the big one also, our challenges related to crime and corruption, and some of which is being attended to. But having said that, we need to remember that we still have a state that has all its three arms hard at work: the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judiciary. We can, of course, we can give an assessment of the performance of each of these arms of the state. But these institutions continue to work, and these are the institutions founded by the Constitution. And therefore, near today, we have a commission where basically transparency is being demonstrated, where those that have pilfered or alleged to have pilfered the resources that belong to the people of South Africa are being brought to account. That is a demonstration that we still have a functional state.
Look, I think many will agree. In fact, I would agree with you on that part to say, here's a political, well, we're talking government on the one hand, but there's a political party that is keen on self-reformation, which I think is really like the right thing to do. Having said that, it doesn't stop people, especially if not before, more so now in the light of the commissions of inquiry that we've had, to be absolutely, puzzled, flabbergasted, disappointed, totally disillusioned by the fact that so many of the appointments does emanate from the ANC. So they would understandably hold the ANC to account and therefore question what has happened with the African National Congress.
Well, we are seeing a lot of that coming to the fore. We have always taken a view, and been from the view that it is not the African National Congress that is corrupt. We will continue to insist on that because there is no one that is mandated by the ANC to go and do wrongdoing. That's the first point. The second point, the ANC people who are ethical. I want you to count names, but they does have people who are ethical that are concerned with the state of the organization, that are concerned that the state of what we're hearing, Madonna Commission as well as the head of committee in Parliament. I continue to insist that ANC is not a corrupt organization. The narrative that is being peddled out there in society, supported by a number of PR agencies that are doing the work of those that are in opposition to the ANC. And of course, those will come and will be ventilated. We will find other political parties that are involved in some things that are done in the dark. All of these things are emerging. So my job is to continue to spread the message of the ANC, to acknowledge that the ANC has not equipped timelessly to unravel the critical things that we're seeing. But at the same time, we must also say that it is an ANC-led government that established the SIU, that established the Hawks, that established the NK, never mind the current state of the MPG. It is the same ANC-led government that has established these commissions and these investigations that are taking place. That is part of what we must do to stand correct to the African National Congress.
Look, I think many people would concur with that, but it doesn't stop the fact, and I can tell you now, if you listen to this show and other shows as well, you will get a clear barometer of the incredible level of dissatisfaction from people across the length and breadth of South African society. And I can tell you now, so many of them, the majority in terms of their anger is directed towards the African National Congress. So you may say that the ANC is not corrupt, but you must concede that the ANC has made a mess with a lot of appointments, whether maybe not intentional, but as how it's played out is that it has cost the government as a country, but it's also cost your party.
No, that is absolutely true. I think any person that speaks for the ANC that doesn't concede that the brand, the name of the ANC is unstable, is shaky in a serious manner at the same time. Acknowledge that. Acknowledge that we have to do much more to turn things around, whether it is about fixing municipalities, about fixing local government, which is something that we're currently attending to, whether it's about fixing the economy, something that we're currently attending to, with the new action plan that we're rolling out. You would have seen Barbara Christie issuing to deal with matters in the SASSA environment. There's a lot done to try to bring in investment in South Africa so that we can have the possibility of ending the current unemployment. So what am I saying? I'm saying that the people of South Africa have every right to be critical of some of the actions that have been done under the ANC government. In that criticism, the people of South Africa should also recall a number of strides made by the African National Congress-led government in 1994 to enable access to education, to enable access to health. And that is why those that are reversing these gains by engaging in acts of corruption, we disassociate with them, take them on a step aside. You would have noted that the former deputy minister was arrested for matters related to the old matter of Usasa. And on the same day of his appearance, went on a step aside. So it's beautiful to the commitments that he made to the people of South Africa. He said,
Okay. Let's pause on that rebuilding. I want to just get your thoughts about local government because you've touched on that. I want to get your feelings about it right after this.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your clientele legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Think about 6 years ago, when Amapiano was just a musical instrument, when streaming meant watching water flow, not videos online, and remote work was only said when your remote batteries died. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Ohino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Let's conclude our conversation with Mahlengi Bengu Motsiri, the ANC's national spokesperson. This in the light of the, Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee, as well as the Madlanga Commissions, where it's put the spotlight on just so much that's gone wrong, certainly within, policing and safety and security. But at the same time, fingers are being pointed as to the people that appointed them in the first place. Having said that, you touched on, Mahlengi, you touched on local government. So, the next litmus test would just be that. It's probably about a year from now, as we know, right? Let's take the city of Joburg as a key barometer because of its economic strategic position. What's the ANC's plan to, if I can use the word, fight back? Because you're up against, in the other corner, Helen Zille.
Well, our fight back must be about accelerating delivery, dealing with meeting the basic needs of our people, that which we committed ourselves to in the Reconstruction and Development founding document. The best way of fighting is to be to reconnect with our community. Our best way of fighting is to continue to strengthen our branches, and more importantly, it is about creating opportunities for people, including young people. When I speak about local government, we can say with certainty that local government action plan was adopted some weeks ago when the President Johannesburg and gave them marching orders. We can say with certainty that we are getting reports that are getting our provinces disciplining wayward councillors in regions. We have reports of people that have been suspended, and we have reports of mayors that are going to be changed on the basis of suspect allegations. So hard at work. Nobody can deny that the cleanup of Johannesburg, the fixing of Johannesburg, led by the bomb squad that was opposed by opposition parties, those that derive from privilege. We can see for ourselves the cleanup that is happening, and the public opinion on this is yes, so job continue to do that with as much speed as possible. Yes, we're going to fight an election, and yes, we must work for people not because of an election. We must continue to do so. But some of those programs had long been conceptualized. So I can say that we're doing the thing we know that saw some 2 years before. We have work that is being done in Tshwane in our coalition, a working coalition with the Action SA. And you've seen ANC and MCs on the ground monitoring the place, talking to residents about this or that matter, cleaning places that have been. So we are doing all of that, not so focus on secondary cities, so on.
Just lastly, I'm staying with Joburg now in the time we have allocated, right? That I mean, you must concede that you're on the back foot in Joburg, whereas for a long period, South Africa, the ANC ran the entire country and certainly ran Joburg, and now you're on the back foot where all different parties and their alliances are taking a piece of the action, and it's caused instability, but also a lack of service delivery. And I don't mean it's the ANC's fault. I'm talking about the collective has been a problem. So my point to you, in being on the back foot, you've got two things to be seen to getting things right ASAP in whichever way you can, as councillors, for example. At the same time, you also have to be able to convince the minds of a very, very skeptical public to give the ANC another chance, because many believe, to borrow a football term, if a team goes on a losing streak, at some stage you call it a day. So I'm saying there has to be a massive turnaround in terms of convincing a skeptical public to give you their vote.
That is correct. But I do wish to remind your listeners, Mashraf, that the ANC governed Johannesburg until 2016 under the leadership of Paxtel, one of our most competent mayors who actually had several awards coming out of his role as mayor of Johannesburg, but being recognized by the international community. It was until 2016 when the DA took over. The rest is history. So yes, we are going to work very hard, but we're also going to remind South Africans about the mess in Johannesburg. It was not under the ANC that we've seen the things that we've seen in Johannesburg. If you remember, there were cleaning services, or the sweeping of the streets was happening. The attempt to green the environment, there were so many other corridors of freedom. All of those programs were cast aside when the ANC lost Joburg. So we do know that we are on the back foot, but we're still there. We're here. We have a strong organization. So we have a strong army of volunteers than any other political party. Ours is to fortify that and utilize that machinery.
Okay. I mean, just to end with you an interesting example of the DA taking over city of Joburg, and the rest is history. You see, again, a skeptic listening into the show now would say that outside of the horrors of apartheid, which is indefensible, the day-to-day running of the country was fine until the ANC took over, and the rest is history. How do you respond to that?
Well, let us look at Tshwane under the DA. I'm going to push on this because it's the same articulation that comes from the DA whenever they're on your show. Look at Tshwane. Some issues now about serious drinks having been at the house of Matana or the other way around. And when it's not select the things that we want to hear, we don't hear in the house talking about the involvement of serious drinks with at Maklala. There is nothing in the Western Cape that suggests that there is a service delivery. Yes, they're getting clean audits. Yes, it's happening. Yes, Transoki looks good. NISA looks good. But go to Devs. Go to Philippi. Go to Kayelita. So you want to transport that model of non-inclusive, exclusionary service delivery. You want to transport it to Johannesburg. I can say with that the opposition decides to sing as a candidate, we will be looking very keenly at their own record, where they govern in the Western Cape in particular, where you still have white faces in senior management in the public service, in the legislature, and so on. So yes, they govern well, where they choose to divert resources. They govern well, but they govern horribly, and have excluded and continue to actually create a tale of two cities. So we will have to talk about that. All of us must
Okay, just a quick one. We have to wrap up. You've got like just one line to answer this one. We were speaking about, ironically, Chiefs, Pirates, and Sundowns earlier, and whether supporters of other clubs support the other clubs. let me put this to you. When you mentioned the examples of Delft and other issues in the Western Cape in particular and their social ills, is it a cause for the ANC to celebrate or to be concerned? Because at that point in time, it does shows up your rival party. So what is it? Celebration because they are unable to service deliver, or deep compassion that they're unable to and try and offer assistance? Quick answer to that.
No, it's wrongdoing from whoever it comes. There's no way the African National Congress can celebrate the fact that people of these areas that are like
Okay.
I'm not sort of the happening at Johannesburg, but
Right.
in the Western Cape, it is a deliberate program.
Okay. Let's leave it at that. Of course, we can talk more about that. Much appreciate your time, Matlengi Bengu Motsiri, the ANC national spokesperson. That's the point, exposing wrongdoing. And some may say that's what they're doing about the ANC as well. It is a huge conundrum, and you and I, we're just part of that big clock called South Africa. Let's get the news headlines slightly delayed. Here's Kolofelo Tefu.
Thanks, Ashraf. Good afternoon. In the headlines this hour, a firearm allegedly used in the murder of Vereniging engineer Amar Swant has been linked to several other violent crimes across the country. SAP's ballistic expert Mishak Mkabela told the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria in Gauteng that the same weapons recovered at Bramley, east of Johannesburg, were connected to more than 20 other murders and attempted murders through the police's integrated ballistics identification system. Still in Pretoria, a suspect has been arrested in connection with the murder of two women in Mamelodi East. The women were in their early 20s. And further afield, the head of the United Nations has called for an immediate end to the violence in Myanmar and says its military rulers must find a credible path back to civilian government. I'll have details on this and other stories at 6.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Pretoria, queuing towards Garsfontein Road. The R21 northbound in Clayville has roadworks reported with lane closures for sinkhole repair works at Olifantsfontein Road, and that's causing some serious delays. In KZN, the M4 southbound has flooding reported towards Bayard Road Bridge, so please approach with caution, and the M4 northbound has a crash near Quality Street. In Cape Town, the N7 checks Hatfield Drive southbound, queuing between Epping and Langa. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit, and Stanhope Road eastbound in Claremont is queuing over Stanhope Bridge. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Domin Kapele.
To me, you got a Bafana story.
Yeah,
Why
Bafana.
not Chiefs, Pirates, and Sundowns?
Hey?
Not Chiefs, Pirates, Sundowns.
Well, I mean, the coach actually ends up mentioning Sundowns and Chiefs. But Bafana will kickstart the Africa Cup of Nations preparations with a friendly match against Zambia on the 14th of November. Thereafter, South Africa will assemble for the camp on the 8th of December, where they will play friendlies before heading to Morocco. Here's head coach Hugo Bruce.
There, I will announce the players. I think some days before. I think. Yeah, because I still have to go to the draw of the World Cup. So I still have to go. So this is the 5th. So after the friendly game now, probably, but it's not sure, but probably we play against Zambia on the 14th of next month. And after that, the day after, I go to Belgium for 2 weeks. So I see my family. And then I come from Belgium. I fly to Washington for the draw. And then I will be back on the 7th here. And the 8th, we start camp. Again, I hoped to start a little bit earlier, really. But yeah, for the second time, PSL didn't want to collaborate a little bit because that is the final of the Carling Cup. So maybe they don't like to hear it, but I'm very happy that Chiefs and Sundowns are
Basically saying that Chiefs and Chiefs and Sundowns are out of the Carling knockout, and he's very happy because he'll get the players that he wants for the national team.
So you know who he supports.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Stellenbosch coach Steve Barker has welcomed his side's busy schedule, saying that the experience will continue to build the team's resilience and depth. Stellies are fresh from booking their spot in the CAF Confederation Cup group stages with a 4-1 win over Angolan side 15th August yesterday. It's a quick turnaround for Stellenbosch, who face Marumo Gallants next at the Dr. Petrus Mulamela Stadium in Bloemfontein on Wednesday, marking their fourth match in just 10 days.
Obviously, we have to tomorrow just regenerate and just get some rest before we travel on Tuesday already. So we'll have one training session Tuesday before we travel to Bloemfontein. So yeah, it's not easy. So hopefully a little bit of rotation, kept some players a bit fresh. Hopefully for Wednesday that they can have an impact. People like Mokomodi is suspended, so he's not available for Wednesday. So it was good for him to be playing. Devin Titus has played a lot of minutes. It was good to give him a bit of a rest. So yeah, the travel is not easy. We can't run away from it. But at the end of the day, I've always said that if we want to be competing in CAF, then it comes with the territory that you are going to be playing more regularly, and we just have to actually embrace it, take the challenge up. It's more matches that we play, so it means everybody gets more minutes.
In athletics, Athletics South Africa President James Moloi is facing suspension after a forensic report on his use of the Federation's credit card. In a statement released today, the ASA board have asked Moloi to give reasons as to why he should not be suspended by Friday. Now, Moloi reportedly used Athletics South Africa's funds for personal expenses, including purchases at clothing stores, restaurants, local shebeens, and alcohol for their business associates. Then in cricket, Test captain Themba Bavuma has been included in the SA men's 15-player squad announced today for the 2-match test series against India. Bavuma returns to the side after missing the recent Pakistan test series as he completes his recovery from a left calf strain. Meanwhile, Proteas coach Shukri Conrad says that he will rely on player and coach experience when they begin the T20 international series against Pakistan tomorrow. Meanwhile, newly appointed Netball South Africa president Mamidi Ali says that she's excited to be one to lead the federation for the next 4 years. She received 69 votes out of a total of 116 from the NSA council members, and Diale says that she aims to restore the sport's dignity and help propel it forward alongside the new executive. On that note, it's time for me to leave the storm behind that I apparently caused today.
You didn't cause a storm.
Yeah.
It's the club's problem. You just report the reality. You are a reflection of what moves the national pulse. You did your
Literally.
job.
Well, I'll be back again tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you. No storm. There's lots of comment about the ANC, I can tell you, which we'll touch on in a moment.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations, and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Design meets downtime on My Design Rules this Monday evening at 7 on S3. This week, our duos are challenged to create a family space for relaxing and connecting. Expect bold ideas, creative risks, and design drama along the way. Whose design will make the judges feel right at home, and whose will leave them out in the cold. Open up your everyday to the extraordinary with My Design Rules. Monday evenings at 7, repeat Saturdays at 2, and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on S3.
SAFM's award-winning drama department presents to you the radio drama series Skyline.
Press to cockpit medical emergency now.
Cabin crew to your stations.
where the skies promise adventure, but behind the cabin doors, untold secrets are found.
Signing off on cheap parts they installed like it's nothing.
Catch the radio drama series every Saturday at 9 p.m. on SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right to Jimmy Muyaha, as always, hosts the SAFM Market Update. Jimmy, you got a story about Pick n Pay, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. I certainly do. I've got a conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of Pick n Pay, Sean Summers, to take a look at the first half of the year. There was a loss from a profit perspective, but that loss is significantly lower than what it was the first half of last financial year. So we're going to speak to Sean around that and get a sense of what has been moving the Pick n Pay business and how they have been going about their turnaround plan. We're also going to have the conversation I promised last week, Friday, around the grey listing. We're going to take a look at what it now means for South Africa to be removed from the grey list. That confirmation coming through over the weekend, acknowledged by National Treasury, this morning acknowledged by the President, that we are officially no longer a grey listed country, alongside Nigeria, Mozambique, and I believe Burkina Faso from an African point of view. We're going to take a look at that and see what it means for South Africa and where we go from here. Then we've got a conversation with the team at Rand Merchant Bank, taking a look at some interesting insights from their latest report on the African investment case, looking at which countries are investment grade countries and where to invest on the African continent. We're going to see what we make of that report and what those insights say. And then we're going to have a conversation with the team at 91 around a new product that they're bringing to market for retail investors, and we're going to get a sense of what the product looks like and what it is that they intend to put out there. And then, because it is Monday, we've got a personal finance segment. We're going to be wrapping up the show taking a look at how to narrow your retirement savings gap. I think with the amount of people that are now considering early retirement and now reevaluating their financial decisions, it's important to take a look at these sorts of conversations and see if we can find some useful insights. Before we get to those conversations, though, a sense of the market movements throughout the day. It has been, by and large, a green day on the equity front, with the exception of local markets. Because of the run that we've been seeing on the resource counters, the local market is now very sensitive towards resource price movements, and today wasn't the best day for resource counters. The gold price is back below $4,000 a fine ounce for the first time since, I want to say, since October 12th or so, when we first broke above there. So this is the first time we're seeing the gold price back in this territory since around the 9th of October earlier this month. So we're going to see what's been driving that. But alongside that, it has actually driven platinum pricing down, palladium pricing down. Platinum is at about 1,575, palladium 1,426. The silver price, $46.48 a fine ounce, also likely due to the softer gold price as well. So I think the commodity counters have been taking quite a bit of a beating to start off the week, and that's led to resource stocks being down 7% on the day's trade. Industrials were up 1.4%. Financials were down 0.75%, and that was enough to send the all share down 1.5% and the top 40 down 1.7%. Interestingly enough, though, we are still above 100,000 points in the case of the top 40, even though we lost almost 2% of gains in today's trade. If we look at the currency side of things, the rand, 17 rand 23 against the US dollar, 22 rand 97 against the British pound, back below 23 rand there, at 20 rand and 6 cents against the euro, and 1 Australian dollar would set you back 11 rand and 29 cents. Anyone looking at Bitcoin, $115,000 a Bitcoin on the dot at the moment. Has been quite a volatile day, but in rand terms, that is back at 1.98 million rand. We're back closer to that 2 million rand mark. A quick look at the oil price before we go, $66.12 a barrel. A little bit weaker there, but we are still seeing that the market is still digesting some of those tensions related to the sanctions and the tariffs that the American government is looking to put on Russia for the supply of Russian oil into the market. While we are in America, the Nasdaq is up 1.5%, the S&P up almost a full percent, but the big winner on the day is the Nikkei in Tokyo. That was up 2.4%. I'm going to look at these and other market movements with Gary Boyson of Rand Swiss a little later on when we come back. But for now, Ashraf, back to you.
Right, perfect. Thanks for that, Jimmy. Lots to reflect on, and that Sean Summers interview not to be missed coming up after 6.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
We'll take some of your calls. I'll tell you what, if the early part of the show was flooded with responses about people, about chiefs and pirates and sundowns and whether one would ever support the other, the latter part, after the conversation with Matlengi Bengu Motsiri, is only about, well, you know it, the African National Congress. So let's play some of those comments from you.
Hi, Ashraf. You know, your spokesperson is just funny there because now if they are saying the Joburg was not in a state that it is now under the ANC, the question is why did the ANC lose Johannesburg? It's for that reason that they were messing up things. That's why they lost it. I don't know where is this spokesperson living. But unfortunately, I'm not surprised because even if you can call Ramaphosa to come and speak, they will speak the same thing. They will say the ANC is not corrupt, it's the people. Who is representing the ANC?
Okay, well, you are your own spokesperson and you've articulated your point of view.
Ashraf, the spokesperson of the ANC there is wrong. The DA, at least they've got parts of their seat which are still looking fresh and good to walk on. Look at Joburg. Even the places where it's supposed to be for the filthy rich, there are potholes. That's the problem there. It's general decay throughout. At least the DA have got some parts where they are looking after.
Okay, points taken.
Hello, Ashraf, your team and the listeners. It's tough to be a spokesperson. The lady speaking about ANC and saying ANC is not corrupt. I mean, that's semantic. ANC is corrupt. If ANC can apply the step aside rule now, I think only 5 people or less will be left in the ANC. One of those people will be left will be Dr. Mtsoaledi. I'm struggling to think of the second, third, fourth, and fifth right now.
Oh my goodness.
Hi, Ashraf. Just wanted a quick one. They're talking about fixing the country. I think maybe if we just fix and bring all the perpetrators of corruption to book, I think that would be the starting point instead of talking about fixing things when the corruption is really, all these commissions and you don't see any sort of action for anybody that's been implicated there. Thank you.
Well, you see, I did tell the ANC spokesperson she needs to just listen to the show and get a barometer of what people are thinking. I don't have to say anything. Just tune in, ANC, to get a sense of what people are talking about you.
Philosophy FM listeners, good evening. My name is Tulani Nzima in Croydon. Kindly ask Umashengi, what does she mean when she's saying people who are counter the ANC are saying the ANC is corrupt, when it was the very same President Ramaphosa who went to the Zondo Commission to say ANC is accused, number one, on corruption. I mean, it's the whole president saying that. When people are repeating the same, then they find fault from their statement. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, and there's more. In fact, we'll get to that after this.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
The National Pulse, Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Tell you what, I looked at a tweet from Sophie Mokoena, right? And I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact words, but she made the point, is like, at this rate, you could get Paul Biya being the president of Cameroon even when he turns 100, because at the age of 92, news now is that Paul Biya has secured his 8th term in office. He's the world's oldest president. He's been declared the winner of the Cameroon presidential election. Naturally, the result has raised the prospect of even more confrontation between opposition supporters and the security. And there are many people within Cameroon who are rejecting the outcome. So what does this mean? Speaking to us from the Lilongwe, Dr. David Matsanga, the international relations and conflict resolution expert. Dr. Matsanga, as always, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, my brother. I have told you, and I continue to tell you, Africa has wonders. You know, this is a guy in Cameroon who has ruled it 93 years. He doesn't speak. He can't speak. He is completely out of his mind. He doesn't know where he is. He rules Cameroon through proxy in Switzerland hospital. He still wants it. But here we are. Let me allow you to ask the questions.
Okay, so you prefaced all of that. He can't think, he can't speak. He's sitting in a hospital in Europe. So how is it possible then that so many people would still vote him back into power?
Which voting? The biggest problem that I don't blame, you see, when Julius Caesar died, before he died, he said, it is not my death that is important. It is the collapse of the Roman Empire. I want to use this, paraphrase it and bring it to you, that it is not Paul Biya. It is the collapse of the entire region where southern Cameroon, an English-speaking country, which was annexed by northern Cameroon. The French annexed the English-speaking country. Resolution 1608 of the United Nations General Assembly gave a mandate for this southern Cameroon to be a nation of its own in 1961. Here we are, several years down the road, annexed, forced, where Paul Biya has killed almost everybody. People are in camps, women are in camps, children are in camps, suffering. Which vote was this? That the Commonwealth, which admitted Cameroon into our Commonwealth that stands for democracy and human rights values, admitted it, and the people don't see it. Our African Union that says democracy and the doctrine of rule of law that has sent observers, they don't see the killings. They haven't seen the killings. Surely, I don't even blame Paul Biya now. I blame the Commonwealth, United Nations, and the African Union.
All right, so what are the implications then of this president who can't speak effectively, in inverted commas, is not living in that sense, who's still been elected as the leader of the country? So what are the implications for the country right now?
The generals will come in. That's all. You want me to be candid?
Of course.
They are going to come in. Yes, candid. This is a pause. My pause is that the generals, enough is enough in Cameroon. Hello. The people are dying there. I am an international legal expert for 10 people, 10 professors, 10 lawyers who were abducted from Nigeria under Buhari without knowing the policy of non-refoulement, abduction on international scene, taken to Yaoundé at night, beaten, sentenced at 5 a.m. for life. I have 10 prisoners, Neratev, you know them. I have 300,000 prisoners in jail in Yaoundé. Prisoners of political conscience. They have nothing they have done except to say,
okay,
please give us a
all right. So now, as the result has been contested, I mean, has that result been ratified? And if so, by who? but it's also been contested. So you already said the generals will come in. Does that suggest the end of democracy?
What democracy is there? Africa has which democracy? How do you go to observe a democracy when people are being beaten? Is that democracy? Which democracy are we talking about? Why did the Commonwealth send their observers? Observers have written that intimidation, beating, shooting, killing, maiming, raping is taking place in one part of Cameroon. How the British Commonwealth, headed by the king himself, can allow such a man to stay in you remember Abacha? Abacha.
Sani
we
Abacha, yeah.
suspended Nigeria. You remember Rawlings? We suspended Rawlings from Commonwealth. Why are we not suspending Cameroon from the Commonwealth? Why are we not suspending Nigeria from the Commonwealth? They embarrass the Commonwealth. They embarrass a country like South Africa that keeps the rule of law. They embarrass countries that are keeping Ghana that keeps the rule of law. They embarrass other countries that are keeping rule of law. Let's expel or suspend Cameroon until it does its elections. Paul Obiya cannot lead. What did you do? He doesn't know where he is, whether he's in Washington or he's in Geneva. He doesn't know whether he's in a hospital in Geneva.
Okay.
Or
So
he's
if he can't lead, so and let's end with this. If he can't lead Paul Biya, as you said, is in Europe, then somebody, I'm thinking of the puppet pulling the string. So he's the puppet. Somebody has been pulling the string. So who's effectively in charge of the country?
Have you seen the leaders? The leader, all the leaders in Cameroon, the president of the Senate is 93. The president of the parliament is 89. Another one is 82. Another one is 91. Oh, the army general, the police commander is 93. Oh, look, I am not against age. Well, if the people of Cameroon, it's up to them. But I am looking at a man, a president, who is supposed to lead others. I'm not against age. Age is God's decision. But what I'm telling you, this type of conflict where other parts of Cameroon are bleeding, and then you come and walk over the dead bodies and file a report, is the question why African Union must be reformed. A country like Cameroon with bad elections should not be allowed to come to African Union in Addis Ababa. Should be told to go back and clean its act before.
Okay.
Should go back. To show corruption. Paul Obiya has bought everybody. From the Commonwealth Secretary General who was there, the Commonwealth Secretary General, the former Commonwealth Secretary General was bought, pocketed. Bankole in the AU is pocketed. He can't write any report of security to the African Union.
When you say pocketed, I mean you're making allegations about them. You've got I don't have the time now. You got the facts to prove it.
Gone there. But boss, I'm not telling you a lie. This guy is flying to Yaoundé. If you go to African Union Head Security Committee, there are no records of the killings of the people of Southern Cameroon. I'm talking the truth. If there are records, African Union, Dr. Ambassador Bankole produced them. If there are records of people dying in Nigeria, produce them. Cameroon, produce them. Show us how many people have been perished, perished. How many people have been detained? How many people are dying today?
All
There's
right.
no record.
Our time is up, Dr. David Matsanga. The question is Paul Biya's time up, or when will it be up? Doesn't seem like it, not for a while anyway. Much appreciate your time, your thoughts, your insights, and your provocative views on where we are and where Cameroon is, and let's see who picks up on that. So thank you for joining us as always on the National Pulse. Hey, what a way to end the show. Do I have to say more? Excepting to tell you thanks for listening, and please set your alarms now for 3 p.m. tomorrow so that you can be in sync with the National Pulse. Let's get the news at 6.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 6. Ballistics links guns and SWAT murder to over 20 other cases, and UN calls for an end to the violence in Myanmar. Good evening, I'm Kulufelo, therefore. A firearm allegedly used in the murder of Vereniging engineer Amar Swant has been linked to several other violent crimes across the country. SAPS ballistic expert Mishak Mkabela told the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria in Gauteng that the same weapons recovered at Bramley, east of Johannesburg, were connected to more than 20 other murders and